Hey there, so this is King of Dragon Pass. This came out about 10 or 15 years ago for Windows. It's since been released on iPad, and now you can get it on Steam and GOG.com. And it's a bit outside of what I would normally play, in that it's a fantasy game. It's basically a story game. You know, you make decisions about wars and gods and monsters, but it's all based around the text. So we're creating a civilization here, and it's telling us the history of our people, and the way we pick how our civilization runs is we explain what our history is. So, this one is the two biggest gods in the mythos are getting married. You know, what happened? How was your clan involved? So this affects all kinds of things that are going to come up in the game. I'm going to go with that one. Healing of Orland, 100-Day Hunt. So these are all the different kinds of events that happened after the marriage. So what did your clan first do once the world was kind of created? Go with that one. And you can read really deeply into these. There's a whole manual that explains all of the gods and all of the myths. This one is about how your clan deals with adding new members if people come to you in need. Do you basically add them as slaves, or do you fully adopt them as a family? And this isn't a moral decision in the game where slavery is always bad. This is if you're deciding if slavery is bad to your people. So that's pretty far out of most other games. I'm going to just say we adopt them because I want to be nice. Although, as we play, if we don't choose that option when we're given that opportunity, people in our tribe will be mad at us. This is now we're selecting the famous enemy of our tribe. So this is basically what kind of guy is going to bother you the most as you play. I'm going to go with trolls. And then what kind of general clan are we in? So this is how happy your people are depending on what you're doing. So if you pick a war clan, which I'm going to go with, it means your soldiers are always going to be wanting to fight, and if you're not attacking somebody, even when you don't need to be, they're going to be mad at you. And then this is which god you awoke first, which is the same thing as saying what starting temple do you have for that god. So you get their power for free, kind of. You don't have to research it in the terminology of other strategy games. This guy is trade mostly, and you come to remember these. There's like 25 gods, so it's kind of crazy. I'm gonna go with the trade guy. Okay, and then because we've moved into the Dragon Pass, that's the whole name of the game. We have to pick what our relationship with the dragons was beforehand. I'm gonna say neutral. We didn't go there, and dragons ate everybody a long time ago, so we're a little bit wary of that. How much land do we start with? I'm not actually sure how this affects the game beyond just your starting condition. Take a little bit more. I'm gonna go with easy and short game. So the game works in a calendar system. So right now it's Sacred Time, which is the beginning of the year, and we get to invest magic points in various categories ahead of time. So right here's my clan ring, which is the 7 members that I get to pick. And they each have their own suggestions about what we should do. You can see the little icon under their shoulder there is what god they worship, and it's pretty hard to remember these, but generally you want a balanced clan, a clan that worships, or you want a balanced clan ring, one that worships a different god for each person. And they'll respond based on their prejudices there. There's a trickster god, and that guy who worships him will always be saying something kind of ridiculous. The guy that worships the war god is obviously going to say you should worship, or you should put points into the war. But basically this lets us bet ahead. It's cheaper to invest now in the beginning of the year one time than to try to pump resources into these categories as we're going. Let's go with mysteries. Diplomacy is, obviously how will we deal with the other tribes. Health is healing as well as, I think, avoiding the disease. Herds, obviously, is your cows. Mysteries is how you discover and pay for magic from various gods. So those become pretty important, and so since we are going to start with basically none, I'm going to definitely do mysteries. Quest is a bit more advanced. We can actually have one of our tribe members reenact a famous quest of a god in order to gain more power, but you kind of want to save up for that. Let's do some more just because I think we're going to get attacked. And then I'm going to leave the rest of the points in reserve, so we have 3 left. So it's sea season, which is like spring. And then here's our different screens. So this is overview of clan. Farming is, how much, what distribution we're doing between farming crops and doing cattle and hunting. This is the screen, the magic screen, that shows all the different gods and their temples. So for example, this lady, Chalana Arroy, I'm not going to try to pronounce all these names, by the way. It's the goddess of health and healing. So we know about the healing mystery, the healing blessing, but we don't have a temple for her, so we can't actually activate this. If I try to click it, it says we either need to sacrifice to get the blessing for a year for, just one time, or we can permanently build a shrine that will always give us that power. This curing blessing, we have to sacrifice specifically to learn it, and then we can use it in our shrine, or sacrifice again to actually activate it. And that's how that works for all of these. So there's all kinds of different blessings from all kinds of different gods. It's easy to have a couple going at once, but the shrines, if we go to, say, build a shrine, it costs a lot. So we can build a shrine that lets us have 1 blessing at a time from this god, build the next level up, which is 2 blessings at a time. Some of them you can go up to 3 or 4, I think. And those get real expensive, especially if you have 4 or 5 of them in parallel, so we'll just leave that alone. Here's our overall map that shows us the relations of everybody, and we can go send an emissary, so we can try to set up trade route. We can tell them, hey, screw you, or we can tell them that we want to be allied with them or something. Trade is really similar. We just go trade items, send a caravan there. This often gets attacked. War is obvious, and then map is how we actually go around exploring. We can just send somebody off into the map and it'll trigger stuff for us to do. The main meat of the game, though, comes from whenever we take an action, it ticks forward in time, or if we click this little icon up here, we can actually skip a whole season if we don't have anything useful to do. And all sorts of events happen, which, because we're the clan ring, we're the head of the clan, we have to decide on what's important to do, how we should judge them. For now, let's go have somebody explore. So I'm gonna just send this guy off into the wilderness, and he'll walk from where we are here all the way out to that dot. And I'm gonna tell him to go slow, so he'll explore more. Weapon things are soldiers, and footmen are just farmers that you've given a sword to guard them. So I'm gonna send it off. He's off exploring. As we do other stuff, it'll start clicking over, and he'll arrive somewhere. Let's build a temple to somebody else, because that's pretty cool. We should definitely do this. So the Cowl Mother. So this is the goddess of cows, basically, and we're very much a cow people. We're ranchers, effectively, even though we also do regular agrarian farming. So there's a great deal of pride. Not worshiping certain gods will definitely give you problems later. People will complain, you'll get cursed, traveling emissaries who worship those gods will come by and look down on you, basically, all sorts of stuff. So we sacrifice some amount of cash, and all of these units are the same. Whenever you're giving an amount of something, 6 goods worth of cows, right? It's the same thing, everything's measured in cow units. So let's sacrifice, and we learned the milk blessing, which is cool. But we still can't run it yet because we don't have the shrine, so let's go ahead and build that. It only costs 10, and it only costs 6 goods every year, which is really not that much. So we built that, and now time has clicked forward, and we're treated to an interesting problem here. A stranger from afar needs help with a bold plan. He proposes to perform the salmon rite and bring that fish to your waterways. In order to perform the rite, he will have to swim from the ocean and leap the falls. To succeed, he requires the ritual backing of the entire clan. So this is where the clan ring becomes super important, because they tell us what their opinions are, and you can see when I'm clicking on each one of these, they have a little quip, but they also highlight in blue their suggestions. So a really quick way to skip through is to just look at what they all suggest, and only one guy says refuse him, and one guy basically abstains. And you can also read their comments. Now, the reason to do or to not do something in this game is not because it's fundamentally a good idea. You can't just judge it, oh, you know, this seems obviously a trick, or it seems obviously fake, you know? You have to judge it based on what your clan believes is good and bad, because in the reality of this game, your clan's beliefs are true, right? The gods actually exist. So you really want to do what makes sense. That doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. And that's part of what makes this game replayable. You know, you might see the same event with different names come through in another playthrough, but depending on the clan's mood, how well you've been doing, how well gods that are related to this favor you, all of that affects the outcome here. So let's see here. I think we should ask him. This is going to cost us some clan magic probably. We have 3 points right now. It might also cost us some food, cows, or goods in terms of, sacrifices. Let's do it. So you see, we lost 2 magic, which is actually pretty hefty, and the mood went down because he made it halfway up the falls, but then faltered. His body was broken on the rocks below. We buried him by our creek bed. So that sucks. He looked like a nice guy. Well, that was sort of tragic. Let's raid somebody. So, let's raid the Lysangs. We don't have enough warriors to defend ourselves. Don't like the Lysangs. Let's raid them. Good time to raid them. We don't have enough warriors. The spirits are with us. We should build a watchtower. Oh yeah, and so there's also fortifications you can build. Right now we have the stake perimeter, but these just add bonuses, I think, to the rolls you do. And that's one thing I love about this game. You don't see the numbers. You're not actually trying to, micromanage some exact number of defense points. It's kind of a crapshoot, and, if some god doesn't like you at that moment, you're screwed, so let's raid somebody. So we can either cattle raid where we just steal their cattle, which is very common, or full-on raid where we try to kill. Let's do that. So we're going to find the Lysang, which are up here, and they're in red because they started out as we're feuding with them. And I'm going to send some footmen and a lot of auxiliaries. The auxiliaries are, I think they say they're women who are healers. It's, sort of a backup. And we can also call on people we have alliances with. They don't usually come along unless they really like you. Let's raid. Alright, so we eluded the patrols, which means usually we're not fighting a full force of theirs, so that's great. 6 weapon thanes and 11 18-footmen are only facing 7 weapon thanes and 71 spearmen. So I think their spearmen are a lot stronger than footmen, but we're roughly matched overall. We can also spend magic points in battle. Seems to be pretty random if that does anything, but let's do it. Let's kill them, and I'm still not actually sure the difference in the tactics are. Sometimes those make specific sense in the middle of a battle, so let's charge. Let's just see what happens. We rushed the formation while they were still sacrificing to their gods, because we caught them kind of with their pants down here. Our magic threw them into confusion. We drove them from the battlefield, striking them down as they fled. So you can really just look down here. We didn't lose anybody, and we didn't have anyone wounded, and they lost quite a few and wounded quite a few. So that's pretty awesome. Cool. I still wants to raid them. So I think that's all I need to do for this season. Now we're in fire season, but I'm going to skip. Ooh, one of your Carls, who are just like landowners, I think is what that means, is caught with a secret supply of clear wine, the magical wine made by the Cowl Mother tribe. The problem is that he somehow acquired these trade goods without going through the clan ring. This infraction infringes on the traditional rights and privileges of the ring. So again, really strong, I'm going to say realistic understanding of what it is to live in a family clan environment, There's only your civilization, and to live outside of that is pretty brutal at this time, even though this is a fantasy world. So one of our options is to outlaw him, which means we kick him out of the society. He can never come back. And that's not technically a death sentence, but it's pretty close to it. Sometimes you have the option to outlaw and then immediately kill him as soon as he's outside of the actual area. So let's see here. Forgive him, allow others to break the traditional rules. I've always gone with a pretty traditional thing in this game, so I'm not sure really what happens in the end if you do that too much, if it just falls apart on you. Yeah, we shouldn't outlaw him. We could punish him another way. Let's shame him. Farmer morale went down, but warriors' morale went up. So that's also a balance. Is the farmers and the warriors are always pitted against each other. They always feel like you're treating the other ones more fairly than them. So whenever one gets unhappy, the others probably almost always seem to get happier. And the farmers often feel like they're not treated very well because we give the weapon thanes, the warriors, very good treatment when they do good in battle. So, all right, it is Earth season, which I think is harvest time. You can see the fruit on the trees here. And if we actually talk about going to war, sometimes they warn you like this is the wrong season. Oh yeah, there we go. They never expect a raid during the harvest, but we're supposed to be harvesting too. So actually, if we went on a raid right now, at the end of the year, when it accounts for all of the food we've been producing, we'll take a hit, and they'll specifically say we shouldn't have raided during harvest time or planting time or whatever specific time. Food situation is okay, and you want a total amount of food that's similar to your population or above it, and then you'll start stockpiling food. So I already have a whole year's worth of food basically ready, even if we produced 0 this year. All right, and we'll check back in on this next time.